to check out this cake. It's a mini 2-layer chocolate cake filled with homemade raspberry filling, and it's frosted with the most sinfully decadent chocolate hazelnut mousse that you have ever put in your mouth. It's vegan, it's gluten-free, and it is unhinged in its deliciousness. Hi, I'm Robin from the Vegan Dollhouse, and today I'm going to teach you how to make this mini raspberry Nutella cake that honestly has no business being this cute. Now, quick story, because there always is one. I originally made this cake back in 2015 for a friend who hired me to bake her a custom birthday cake. She wanted something small and special just for her and her daughter, and she had celiac disease, so I had to be super careful about every single ingredient. Fast forward a decade, yes, it's been a whole decade, and I'm revisiting this recipe because gluten-free baking has come so far. There are incredible pre-made gluten-free flour blends now, and they didn't exist back then, so I wanted to streamline this recipe and make it even more accessible. Whether you're gluten-free by necessity or just gluten-free curious, this one is for you. There are 3 components to this cake: the chocolate cake layers, the Nutella mousse, and the raspberry filling. Right now we're making the gluten-free chocolate cake. If you have any questions about this process or why I chose to use certain ingredients, I most likely answer all your questions in the recipe, and you can find that link in the description. But if you're in a rush and you need answers ASAP, I can relate, I'm like that. Just leave me a comment and I'll tell you everything you want to know. My favorite way to prep my pans for batter is to oil the bottom and the sides and then line the bottom and sides with parchment paper. This might seem like overkill, but I'm a control freak and I don't like it when things don't go my way. So if I have to struggle to get my cakes out of the pans, I am not a happy camper. If you're more chill than me, and chances are you are, you can skip this parchment paper step completely and just oil your pans. I used 2 4-inch heart-shaped springform pans because I am on brand at all times, but any 4-inch pans will work. If you like these particular pans that I used, I link to them in the recipe. This recipe makes enough batter to fill each pan about 75% full, and that'll make a 2-layer mini cake that serves about 4 to 6 people. Or, and I quote myself directly, straight from the recipe, you can decorate 1 layer for your guest and keep 1 layer for yourself. You want to bake these for about 32 to 40 minutes. I know that's a super long range, but honestly every oven is different. Some of them run hot, some of them are uneven. My oven that I have now is uneven. My old oven ran hot, so it really just depends. But if you're familiar with the toothpick test, it always works, even on gluten-free cakes. So go ahead and start checking at 32 minutes by inserting a toothpick into the center of each cake. And if it comes out clean, then the cake is done. But if there is wet batter on the toothpick, it means you need 5 more minutes. While the cakes are baking, make your raspberry filling. It's super simple: vegan sugar, cornstarch, fresh raspberries, and water. That's it. It's just 4 ingredients in 10 minutes, and you never have to buy jam again. I used organic fresh raspberries from Costco, but if all you have is frozen, no problem, just cook that a little bit longer. You want to use medium heat on the stove, and the key is just to keep stirring and kind of don't stop. After about 7 minutes, it starts to bubble, and once it starts to thicken, it's only 2 minutes before you want to take it off the heat. I leave mine on the counter to cool to room temperature before I put it in the fridge. If you're super observant, unlike me, you might have already noticed in this video that the kitchen changes, like significantly. That's because I filmed this recipe during a move to a new house. It's a little chaotic and unedited, kind of like me. So because my new oven is old and a gas oven and it doesn't really bake very evenly, one of my cakes was completely done and the other one wasn't. If this ever happens to you, just take the cake that's done out and bake the other cake for another 5 minutes. The reason you do this is because you don't want to over bake the cake that's already done. For the Nutella mousse, we're using silken tofu. Don't close the tab. Stay with me. I promise you are not going to taste it. I am a super picky pants and I would not make something that doesn't taste good. What you will taste is the smoothest, creamiest, most chocolatey, hazelnutty situation you've ever had on a cake. You might be wondering what you're supposed to use for chocolate hazelnut butter because I know, at least in the United States, Nutella is not vegan. And I definitely started a fight on Reddit by calling a Nutella cake vegan when the rest of the world, I guess, is not okay with me saying that. But there are a lot of vegan options for vegan Nutella. Justin's makes one, Nutiva makes one, Endangered Species makes one, and if you're lucky enough to know somebody who lives in Europe, you can also get the vegan version of Nutella, the Ferrero brand. Make sure you're scraping the sides of your blender and re-blending a lot because you want to make sure it's super duper smooth. And don't worry if the consistency looks thin now because it will firm up in the fridge later. I always use Pasha chocolate chips for my chocolate in all my recipes because it's fair trade and it's organic and it's a vegan brand and I can get behind that. But I do know that some of you may not have access to expensive chocolate, and if that is an issue for you, then you can just get the semi-sweet chocolate chips from Trader Joe's. I melted my chocolate in the microwave because I'm a big cheater, but it's only 30 seconds and then you stir, and then 30 seconds and then you stir again and you're done. So easy. You don't need to be a professional chocolatier tempering your chocolate over here for this recipe. Let's save our perfectionism for when it's time to decorate the cake. This is not the time. When you're adding your melted chocolate to the blender, just use a spatula so you can make sure you get every single little bit. You don't want to waste any. The first step in assembling your cake is to take the cakes out of their pans. So if you used springform pans like I did, then you can loosen the sides and press the bottom up and then peel off the parchment paper. and they should release beautifully. The next step is to level your cakes. This is optional, but I highly recommend it. You're basically just cutting off any dome-like things on the top of your cakes so that they sit flat on top of each other. I have this fancy cake leveler, and if you're interested, there's a link to it in my recipe, but you can just use any serrated knife that you have at home. It basically will keep your cake from turning into the Leaning Tower of Pisa, which is structurally not ideal. Now that your mousse has chilled, you're going to fill a piping bag. I fit mine with tip 1A, which is a large round tip. And if you don't have that tip, you could actually just fit it with no tip because you pretty much just want a hole. And if you don't have a piping bag, you could even use a Ziploc bag for this step and just cut a hole out of the corner. Once you set the bottom cake layer onto your cake plate, you're going to use your piping bag you just made to pipe a border around the perimeter of the cake. This is kind of like a dam. It's going to keep the raspberry filling from oozing out the sides when you stack your second layer on. Once you have a border all the way around the perimeter, then it's time to fill the inside of the heart, or circle depending on what cake pan you used, with raspberry filling. Carefully place the second layer of cake on top and cover the top and sides of the assembled cake with Nutella mousse. I used a mini offset spatula to smooth out the mousse on this cake. I'll link to the spatula I used in the recipe. Now it's time for the fun part where you get to pipe any decorations you like on top of the cake. My favorite tip is the 1M tip because it's a star and it makes the prettiest decorations. And once you finish piping, then you can either be done or you can add sprinkles or edible flowers. I decided to add raspberries since this is a raspberry filled cake. So much of this cake can be done in advance. So for one thing, I have baked the cake layers and then wrapped them tightly and frozen them in the freezer for up to 3 months. And I've also made the mousse in advance and it stays good in the fridge for quite a few days. I think this cake is delicious, but to be honest, I'm not usually a fan of mixing chocolate with fruit. But what do you think? Would you swap in a different fruit filling for the raspberry? And if so, which fruit would you use? Tell me in the comments. So if you made it this far, thank you and I love you. And the full written recipe is on my website on vegandollhouse.com and I'm putting the link in the description. If you make this cake, please tag me and let me know how it goes. I really want to see your creation. If you haven't already subscribed, I hope you will so that we can go on more cake adventures in the future. Bye!